Welcome to Amazing Business Radio with best-selling author and customer service and business expert, Shep Hyken. Shep will talk with some of the smartest thinkers in business to help make you more successful in your professional and personal life. This is Amazing Business Radio with Shep Hyken.
Hello, everybody. It's Shep Hyken here. We're back with another episode of Amazing Business Radio. I'm very excited today because we are going to be talking with Bill Price, who is Amazon's first global vice president of customer service and is the founder and president of Drive Solutions. And that is a consultancy dedicated to creating highly effective customer contact strategies and operations. And he is also the co-author of a great book, The Frictionless Organization: Deliver Great Customer Experiences with Less Effort. Now, we're going to be talking to him in just a moment. So a quick announcement or two before we get started. If you've got an amazing story that you'd like to share or a question that you would like me to answer, be sure to send them to me on any of the social media channels. You can find me everywhere on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and more. And remember, if it is a question, use the hashtag Ask Shep. I'll either answer the question there, wherever you ask me, in my newsletter, on this podcast, or perhaps in my TV show, which is Be Amazing or Go Home, which can be found on Apple TV, Roku, Amazon Prime, C-Suite TV, and you can find individual episodes at beamazing.tv. That's beamazing.tv. All right, it's time for this incredible interview today. Bill, welcome to the show. Oh, and before we get started, I realized I may have mispronounced the company name, not Driva, but it's Driva Solutions. I apologize for that. So once again, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Shep. I'm delighted to join you today.
Well, I'm excited too, because you have an amazing past. Yes, you were at Amazon and you were Amazon's first global vice president of customer service. Man, when you were there, why didn't I know you then? I would have loved to have worked with you. But go ahead.
No, I was going to say, Amazon kept a lot of that under the radar back then. There was actually a corporate rule that no one could come visit the company to even check out what was going on. It made it easy for all of us, whether we were in logistics or website or customer service or product design, to say no, because that was the corporate policy. No visitors, no interviews. But we kept it under the radar screen for a little while there.
All right. Well, it's been a while since you've been with Amazon, and now it's okay to interview about it.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
And what I love also, you've got a really great past. Prior to Amazon, you turned down an incredible job with Steve Jobs and Apple because you were asked to run Apple Care. Yeah,
that was shortly after Steve, or actually right after Steve Jobs came back to Apple, and he took over the reins again, late 90s, 98. Recruiter got a hold of me from the Bay Area. I was living in Seattle at that time. I went through a whole battery of interviews. I was very excited about it, but in the end, it didn't work out. And it turns out a few months later, Amazon came knocking, so I took that position instead.
But let's make this clear. The reason it didn't work out wasn't their decision.
Oh, no. I had to turn it down because it was really going to be difficult for me to commute 6 days a week from Seattle to Cupertino. Having lived in California before, I knew what that was all about, but my family was well settled here in the Seattle area at the time.
Well, you made a good choice, family, and then, of course, you ended up at Amazon, which was probably an amazing experience. Now, before we get into, I want to talk to you about your new book, The Frictionless Organization. I know it's been out for a little while, but I just want to know if this is true. Is there really an empty seat in the boardroom representing the customer at Amazon?
Well, total truth here. I was in what I believe to be the very first meeting at Amazon where Jeff left a chair empty. It was a meeting of the 8 or 10 of us that reported to him. And all of us thought somebody really important must be coming there because he kept his hand on that chair. And then we started the meeting, and he said after a few minutes, well, I'm going to keep this chair empty for the customer because the customer can never come to our meetings. And that visual, that image stayed with us, and it repeated itself in boardrooms and lots of the sessions that each of us had.
Wow, that's an incredible story.
Yeah.
Another rumor that I'd like you to confirm, factual or still just a rumor, is that Jeff Bezos once said, "We should be so good we don't need a customer service department. Why do we have a customer service department?" Or something to that effect.
something that if his first idea, really funny enough that you say this, before I joined the company, is he didn't think anybody would ever call up customer service. They would only do things completely through the internet because it was a web only service. So they never set up a PBX or an ACD or anything else. They just set up everything to be done on the web via email. And phone calls started coming in through the switchboard in his office saying, where's my book? Or do you have this? Or early days customer service questions. So Amazon had to scramble to put in an ACD and start taking some phone calls.
And ACD, for those that don't know, stands for
automated call distributor, that allows you to have a single system that distributes the callers to the most available agent that you might have to handle the call. But his whole idea was, we need to make things really simple. They need to work well. Why should customers need to call us for customer service? So when he interviewed me back in early '99 for this position, he asked me what was my philosophy for running customer service. And I told him what became the title of my first book, which is The Best Service is No Service. The best thing to do for our customers is not to need, so that set up everything so well so they don't need to contact us for help and support. And he said, yes, it's exactly what we're trying to do here. And maybe we can work together to really push that further. And that's what we did.
Well, and that's wonderful. And your most recent book, The Frictionless Organization, deliver great customer experiences with less effort. This could not be more timely. I think you and I talked about this briefly. You're aware that I wrote a book titled The Convenience Revolution, which is all about creating this frictionless experience. And actually, I used Amazon as the #1 lead case study representing all 6 areas of convenience that I identified. You've identified a number of areas to reduce friction, but let's start with, why did this book need to be written?
Yeah. It was about 7 years since David Jaffe and I wrote our second book together. And I was actually walking with a good friend of mine, taking a stroll during the COVID period with my dog. And we were chatting along, and this friend of mine is a real ardent critic of customer service. And he kept telling me stories of problems, of friction, of issues. And he said, Bill, you guys need to write another one because things have gotten more complicated. Customer demands have gotten have gotten higher. So you ought to really update what you've done before and use new examples. So Ben encouraged us to do that. We gave him a little credit in the back of the book too, but we felt, when we sat down, we said, that's right. We have more channels for customers to contact us. We've made it easier to contact, but we haven't said to ourselves, why do they need to contact us? What are the fundamental reasons, and who can really address those around the organization? So we felt that it was important to go out and talk to companies that were doing a good job. And that's what created the whole concept of being frictionless.
Yeah. And your definition of frictionless is?
Yeah, it's really funny because we can define friction really, really well. We've already begun to talk about on this call, but frictionless is actually something that often goes unnoticed. It really means that things work so well, you didn't need to contact us, or the rate of contacts goes down, that the NPS, Net Promoter Score, loyalty metrics go up. So you see frictionless in the results because of the processes of getting rid of the friction. So you can see more friction, it gets in the way. Being frictionless is really the state of things working fine, the way they really ought to be working for the customer and for the organization.
Right. Essentially, it goes unnoticed unless you make it a point to tell customers that you're the easiest to do business with, and here's why. And I think that kind of sets the tone, or plants an image in their mind as to how easy it's going to be to work with you.
And one other, I totally agree. And one other point on that, you hear customers now start saying that to other companies. Why aren't you as easy as Amazon? Or, when I had to return something to Nordstrom, that was really easy. And it's really hard when I try to return something to you. So customers actually are sharing a lot of those other experiences to other companies, and those other companies need to listen.
Yeah. And I think more important is these people, or these companies who have these customers, need to recognize that they're now being compared not to a direct competitor, but to the best experiences they're having. Why can't you be as easy as, or as simple as, or as friendly as, et cetera, et cetera? And this it's not just the consumer to, business to consumer, it's B2B as well. I don't think you can turn your eyes to, or turn your back on the fact that even if you're in the Defense Department buying missiles, you're still in the back of your mind going, oh boy, why can't they be as easy as, doing
Yeah.
business with Amazon? I mean, to really simplify things.
Yep. No, you're right. And what began there was initially pushback to that concept, which was, well, we're more complicated than that. We're a bank, or we're a government agency, or we're whatever. But the fact of the matter is, customers don't care. They don't know. They just want things to be easy for them. They want things to be delivered frictionlessly, in other words, without friction. And they don't care whether you're in this business or not.
Yeah. And the pandemic really forced companies to become more convenient and make it easier when you couldn't meet face to face, when things had to be delivered rather than, perhaps you coming into the store and picking them up. And again, even if you're in the B2B world, we had a healthcare client, and they bought a $500,000 piece of machinery, and it showed up at the wrong time, way early, and they weren't prepared to accept it because the area that they had designated for it wasn't ready. And the executive said to me, I buy toilet paper from Amazon. At least they give me an email to tell me it's on its way. And he just compared that $500,000 piece of machinery to toilet paper. And I know the listeners have heard me talk about that. Share with us the best story that describes becoming frictionless.
The one that I like to talk about actually is outside of the US. So customers in Asia would know this company. They're beginning to sell into the United States and to Europe, but this company is called Xero, Xero, and they are a largely online small business financial software company. So you can set up your taxes, you can take care of your accounting needs. So small, medium businesses, similar to some of the lines of business that Intuit has out of the US. And Xero's concept all along was, why do we need customers to have to call us for support or even send us a random email or chat? Let's make everything available for them on a portal, on their own app, as well as a portal, and they can get what they need on there. And so to this day, they don't have an inbound 800 number, a toll-free number. They don't take inbound email. Customers go to their what they call Xero Central, and at Xero Central, the data that they've shared with us are 96% of the time someone goes to Xero Central, they get what they need. Only 4% fill out a little form or a little statement that says, "Hey, can you help me with this?" And what's really interesting and good, we think very positive about it, is that particular request for help, those 4% of the time there's a need for help, an expert from Xero calls up the customer to walk them through what's going on. So it could be someone who wrote the billing software, someone who is dealing with product management, someone who's dealing with accounting, meaning the accounting of the services. So they actually call up the customer and say, "Hey, how can I help you?" They go through that resolution, and then that person needs to go back and say, well, why wasn't that solvable in Xero Central? So they constantly do that. And Xero Central includes some machine learning that that says, well, if you ask for this on Xero Central, you're apt to ask this next, the way that a lot of intelligent AI software is doing in call centers, but they decide to move it all up there into self-service, and the customers love it. They give really positive reviews. It's a very successful story.
I love that story. And the 4% that have to reach out, how long does it take for them to hear from one of those?
No more than 2 hours.
Executives. What was that?
No more than 2 hours.
No more than 2 hours. That is impressive.
And you get an expert to call you, which I think is a real hallmark. It's not just someone who is, and they know where you were on Xero Central. So Shep, we see you were looking for this, you're looking for this, and you asked for this. I've done a little research. Here's what you need.
Wow. So it's a continuation of the conversation. Customer doesn't have to start over. Exactly. And really, it's a wonderful experience. And to Xero's, this is really a feather in their cap. They're saying, okay, why did we receive that call? What can we do to eliminate or mitigate it for the future? Love the idea, love the concept. And by the way, that kind of thinking can apply to any size company. Set it up. If you can create an online experience that's easy and intuitive, great. If you get calls coming in or emails or forms being filled out, you now know what you're missing. So beautiful, beautiful information. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, I want to talk specifically about some of the content that's in the book to get people excited about buying this book. We're talking with Bill Price, the co-author of The Frictionless Organization, Deliver Great Customer Experiences with Less Effort, available everywhere books are sold, especially Amazon. Don't go away. We're coming right back. Hi, Shep Hyken, your customer service and experience expert, and I'm excited to tell you about my new book, I'll Be Back, How to Get Customers to Come Back Again and Again. Now, this book is packed with idea after idea on how to, just as the title implies, get your customers to come back. In the book, you'll learn that repeat customers aren't always loyal customers. Now, both are great, but there's a big difference. You'll also learn about 10 reasons a customer may stop doing business with you and 3 reasons you would stop doing business with them. And one of my favorite lessons is a 6-step process for creating an I'll Be Back strategy. Of course, there's much, much more. You'll start getting more of your customers to say, I'll be back almost immediately. Just go to www.illbebackbook.com. Again, that's www.illbebackbook.com.
You're listening to Amazing Business Radio with best-selling author and customer service and business expert, Shep Hyken.
We're back on Amazing Business Radio talking with Bill Price of Driva Solutions and the author of The Frictionless Organization. You were talking about Xero, and during the break, you mentioned something that I think was pretty important, and that was that we want to make sure, as a company, we want to know, is our self-service working? And Xero really focused in on understanding that, hey, 96% of what we are sharing is working. So talk to us a little bit more about that, and then I want to get into more content specific to the book.
Yeah, what really impressed David, my co-author, and me is that they knew that it was 96%. They had a very specific metric for it, and they were actually aiming to get it as close to 100% as possible. So it's called the containment rate. It's similar to a first contact resolution in call centers, but what is your containment rate for your chatbot, for your app, for anything that's automated on an IVR, for a portal? And a lot of organizations just don't know what that containment rate is. And so they're flying blind, hoping that a call center rep or a contact center rep will then catch that mistake or catch that a lack of containment and then fix the problem. But the whole issue is, what is our containment rate overall, and what is it by issue? So if it's containment rate by a billing inquiry, maybe that's near 100%. If it's a containment rate by a tech issue, it might be a little less than 96%. But the average, so you need to look at the containment rate by issue or by reason, as we call it, and then look at it overall and see how that containment rate will go up over time.
Wow, that it's interesting. And I think any company should be taking a look at those stats and facts. Very important for them to know about. All right, let's dive into the book. You've got some great chapters in here. And I know Xero is mentioned in the book. You've also got some horror stories. We can talk about those if we have time. But let's start with chapter 1, because I love this. You must understand. What is understand? And this is the opening question. Why is that important?
Yeah, the whole, what we did in the book, Shep, is there are 9 chapters, and each chapter is a simple verb. And the first one is understand. If you can't understand why your customers are bothering to contact you for help, then you really can't get very far. And the reasons why have to be broken down into maybe 25 to 50, we call it 25 to 50 specific reasons. And these need to be in the customer's language, like, why is my bill so high? Why does my internet keep dropping? When is my product going to arrive? How can I return this? Can I cancel my account? Can I add something to my account? So exactly what the customer is saying makes it really easy for anybody on the receiving end to pick it up. That could be a retail salesperson. It could be a customer service rep. It could be an AI bot that picks it up as well using speech recognition. And so by understanding in total, and then by each of these different reasons, you can start figuring out what is the rate of those contacts over time. And you want to see the rate go down for the stuff that frustrates customers, and you want to see it go up for the issues that are really valuable for customers, like, hey, I want to add something to my program.
You know what? It really does. It frustrates me when, I guess, I'm losing my train of thought here, but as I hear what there's so many things swarming in my mind right now. if you know a problem is happening again and again, why aren't you doing anything to mitigate or eliminate it?
Exactly.
We do this exercise with our clients, and it's real simple. What are the biggest problems that you hear about, the biggest questions that you're, or the most questions you're asked, the most complaints? And this is what happens. We have 3 columns. 1 is the complaint, 2 is the frequency, and 3 is the solution. The frequency, though, is what drives me crazy. How often does it happen? Every day. How many times a day? Oh, like throughout the day. And I'm thinking, it's a problem. Why is there still a problem? And I realize some things you can't avoid, but it's crazy thinking like that.
Well, we see it as well, and companies that we interviewed for the what we call the good stories in the case, they kept saying that it was really hard for them to figure out that frequency as well. But once they finally got to that level, then they could have actual data, not just how often do you think it. They could actually do it through speech and text analytics. They can do it by looking at the frequency of repeat contacts coming in, where the customer says, "Hey, this wasn't fixed the first time. You guys need to come back to me to fix this again." So that frequency is a difficult one to grab. But once you get that, it's like the Rosetta Stone. It starts unlocking a lot of really great insights.
Do you have a favorite chapter in the book, or a favorite strategy? Or how about this, a favorite verb?
A favorite verb. Yeah, my favorite verb, it actually plays exactly to what we described here. So it's almost like part 2, Shep, which is eliminate. How can we,
which is chapter 3.
Chapter 3. So we talked about digitize, chapter 4, 5. We got a couple of chapters on digitize and preempting, which we talked about with Xero. But chapter 3, eliminate, says, so hold on a minute. If this really is frustrating your customers, and it's a contact that you really don't want to have to take, meaning it's just going to be very time consuming and expensive, how can you do some sort of root cause analysis and eliminate it at completely from happening? And so we hear a lot about digital first strategies, and I'm a big fan for years, even before Amazon, of having great digital solutions. But it should be eliminate first, because if the problem recurs and it's one of these frustrating issues, and I'll give you an example. My internet keeps going down. You and I chatted about that before the session started. Well, that happens all the time, and internet service providers know that it's a big issue. And there are about 8 or 10 principal root causes, and they constantly go through their inventory to figure out, is it speed? Is it this? Is it that? But if these are recurring problems at the customer level, they're very expensive to identify, very expensive to resolve. You have to send a technician out once or twice or more than that to fix it. And so they become hugely expensive and intrusive. And so it should be so important for companies to figure out which of these reasons are so frustrating that they need to be eliminated, and let's figure out how to eliminate them. And the how to eliminate them means engaging all the business together to figure out the solution. The finance folks to come up with some of the money to do the deep dive tools. The product design group, maybe the group that does outbound dispatching of a technician or a truck roll to fix something. The marketing team that actually promises or overpromises what can be delivered. These are all the possible root causes. So by engaging what we call the whole of business, you can start eliminating these things. So we see eliminate being one that produces the most value, the highest amount of return, partly because it's the biggest pain that customers are expressing to you. One other quick point on that is that when we look at the eliminate reasons, like my internet keeps dropping or my bill is wrong, things like that, their churn is sometimes 6 times higher than the average churn in an organization. So just to say that again, those particular reasons lead to much, much faster and more damaging churn and turnover than the ones that are digitized or ones that might be a little more positive. And when we come up with those sorts of data, CEOs and CFOs go, wait a minute now, let's attack those. But you got to get that level of detail that says our overall rate of contacts is this. Now let's break it down by the ones that are the most frustrating ones. They fall into this corner called eliminate, chapter 3. And let's figure out what we can do there, because we can reduce that churn and improve the overall retention for the organization.
Right. So even if 96% of, like for Xero's example, 96% of those calls, or I'm sorry, of those problems are answered digitally through a self-service portal, we should still be taking a look at why are people still having to call or reach out to us for, or, the self-service for any of the problems. We need to eliminate.
Why is the word? Why is the question? Why are they doing this? Why did this happen? Okay, it happened for this reason. Well, why is that? The classic 5 whys of doing that type of root cause analysis is still very valid. And those whys really need to be asked and answered by departments other than customer service, other than the customer facing teams. Again, product development, IT, dispatch, web development, et cetera. Then you can start really getting to the root causes.
Yep. So the goal here, and I'm going to kind of paraphrase this a little bit, it's not to use digital self-service, frictionless or less friction type solutions to allow customers to get answers. So we're not trying to eliminate people. Well, we are eliminating people having to make the phone call. We make it easier for them, but why not just eliminate the problem so they don't even have to get the digital or self-service issue resolved that way? That was perfect. All right, we're running out of time, and I have 2 things, and I don't know if you can do both of them. I always end with the one thing question, but there's a comment here. I'm intrigued by. Let's scare the audience. Give us like a 60-second story that scares the audience into wanting to take action on the things we've been talking about today, and specifically why they should get out there and buy that book.
Yeah. Okay. Quick 60-second example. And this is a whole product example. When Cisco and WebEx were moving along very swiftly, very positively, one of the chief engineers of the WebEx system said, we need a simpler tool than WebEx. We need a tool, a solution, a video tool that makes it easier to set up, that's easier to manipulate, easier to work with.
And by the way, for those that don't know what WebEx is, it's the early, I mean, they were really early in the game with webinars and online types of programming. Now, thanks to the pandemic, everybody knows about Zoom and other video type solutions.
Well, and that's exactly the punchline, because that guy at WebEx left and formed Zoom.
Oh, there you go.
And what he did was say exactly that, which is if you can't do it, if we can't do it within WebEx, he was thinking about like a WebEx Lite, Lite, and they wouldn't do it. So he went off, raised some money, created Zoom, been a big success story. We're using Zoom right now in this discussion. At any rate, it's a good story of, if you don't keep things simple, if you don't make it really simple and easy for customers, someone else will do it for you.
All right. That's almost strong enough to end on, but I always ask the one thing question. So I'm still going to ask it. Is there one last nugget of information you like to share? Something out of the book, another story? This is fascinating. By the way, we can go on and on for hours with this conversation because I love talking about what you're talking about.
I'll leave you with one more, which is something that I've written about recently too, which is how do you deal with the question from a customer, I want to cancel my account?
Ooh, ouch.
Okay, how do you deal with that? Do you put a button on your website that says cancel? Do you route them to a high-level experienced sales person who puts them through the paces to figure out what's going on, making them some new offer? What's really important is to figure out, why did it get to that stage that they have to cancel the account? Were they a bad fit in the first place? Did they have a series of mistakes and problems along the way that weren't resolved? So the idea is that's a huge litmus test to figure out what to do and to become frictionless.
Wow. So great insights. This is why we call it Amazing Business Radio. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
My delight, Shep. It was great to work with you, and congratulations on a wonderful podcast series.
Well, thank you very much. Again, the book by Bill Price is The Frictionless Organization. Deliver great customer experiences with less effort. Go out, get it today, and please come back next week for another amazing interview. I promise we will have a great one. And until that time, this is Shep Hyken reminding you to always be amazing.